As the Ukraine war reaches its 3-year anniversary this week, the U.S. is now being completely open about its position and what it really thinks about the war. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was the first to divulge America's position at a meeting at NATO headquarters in Brussels. Hegseth was blunt that Zelensky had no chance of achieving his goal of kicking Russian forces out of Crimea and returning Ukraine to its pre-2014 borders.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops.
What Hegseth is now saying openly is that European security is now a European problem. If Ukraine cannot fight, as Europe cannot militarily support her, then Ukraine needs to surrender to Russia. He said this when the Biden administration broke Europe's relationship with Russia by breaking political and energy ties between Europe and Russia. Soon after this speech, US President Donald Trump said in a post on social media, "I just had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately." The Trump administration is now directly talking to Russia, which the Biden team never did, and they have dropped Ukraine like a rock. No more support to continue the war, no more NATO membership, and no more demands of restoring the pre-2014 borders. What President Trump and Defense Secretary Hegseth are openly proclaiming is, European security has fallen down the pecking order of US priorities. Asia is now the priority as far as the US is concerned. The US is now about to abandon Europe after pushing the continent towards war in order to focus on the Far East. The only country in Europe that matters in this equation is Russia, who the US will now negotiate with directly. Former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has acknowledged he ordered the Israeli army to use the Hannibal directive to kill Israeli civilians and soldiers on 7 October 2023. During an interview with Israel's Channel 12, Gallant admitted he ordered the controversial protocol that involves killing captives along with their captors. A key argument that drove Israel's response after October 7th was that it was responding to the largest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. But like many of the claims spread by the Zionists, this has now been blown apart by the former defense minister. Israeli forces killed large numbers of their own civilians and soldiers during the attack. The army dispatched attack helicopters, drones, and tanks on its own territory to respond to the attack, killing not only Hamas fighters, but also Israeli civilians and soldiers. Gallant also confirmed Israeli helicopters killed Israeli civilians at the Nova Festival, which took place near the Re'im military base. This revelation is now the latest in a long list of narratives that have been proven false and that were spread by Israel and their Zionist supporters after 7th October. Germany goes to the polls this week to elect a new parliament and chancellor after the previous traffic light coalition collapsed due to irreconcilable differences over the national budget. Friedrich Merz, the leader of the conservative Christian Democratic Union, is leading in the polls to become the next chancellor and the largest party in the German parliament, the Bundestag. The German electoral system is based on proportional representation, making it virtually impossible for any single party to cross the 50% majority threshold. This is why German post-war history has seen two-way and three-way coalitions. Whilst the CDU is forecast to win 30% of the vote, the far-right Alternative for Germany party has emerged as the second strongest force with 22% of the vote, according to polls. The Socialists and Greens, who were part of the traffic light coalition, are trailing the far right, but will likely be part of any future coalition due to the consensus in Germany to not collaborate with the far right. The elections have been fought on immigration and the economy, with the public concerned about immigration control and stagnation in the German economy. Whatever the electoral result, the new government will have to overcome some massive challenges that were made worse by abandoning Russian energy during the Ukraine war. Europe's largest economy is facing a multitude of challenges that have little to do with immigration and will determine the future of Europe's largest economy.